Here's an example of how we were right about the effects of stand your ground laws. So now, of course, stand your ground is where basically if you feel threatened, you could just shoot someone. Well, that's exactly what happened back in 2014. So now the reason that I'm bringing this case up now in 2022 is that here we have a case that has just made it through the courts with an acquittal based on stand your ground. So now this all happened back during an encounter in a movie theater where you had a retired Florida police captain who had fatally shot an unarmed man in a movie theater. So now this altercation happened between Curtis Reeves and Chad Oulson. Now Reeves, 79 years old, was just acquitted by a jury on Friday following a 9-day trial in which Reeves testified that he had feared for his life when he had shot the 43-year-old Oulson when they were on a movie date with their wives. So now Oulson is a former serviceman, he's white, and Reeves is a former police officer. Actually, he was a former SWAT commander. So now the altercation began during previews for the movie of Lone Survivor. Now, Oulson apparently took out his cell phone, which again, if you're during the previews, you're not ruining the movie. I know there's the the unspoken rule or unwritten rule, or well, in some cases it is written, where you're encouraged to turn off your cell phone during the movie. Well, it's not the movie, it's the previews. And so, totally right and fine to pull out his cell phone. However, this had sparked an argument between the two, and at the end of it, Oulson was fatally struck in the chest with a single bullet from a .380 handgun. During testimony, Reeves argued that he had no choice to do so because I was fearing for my life. The argument, he was so scary. In fact, here's a quote. He was so much above me and so full of rage that he was going to strike me with all the strength that he could put together. And my 71-year-old frame just couldn't take it. He had been out hunting the previous couple of days, or a couple of days prior. And so, bow hunting, by the way, and I think it was bow hunting. And either way, you're not that frail if you can go out hunting. But anyway, apparently he had feared for his life. He said, I figured that this was the end of the line for me. Well, 71, I'd say he had a pretty good run. Reeves claimed that Oulson, during the confrontation, had thrown his phone at him and struck him, although again, there's no evidence of that actually happening. Oulson, however, did throw a very dangerous and deadly weapon, a bag of popcorn. Oh no, hey, look, you ever eaten popcorn? It's stuff like shrapnel. It'll rip you apart if you throw it so hard. Again, that's when Reeves fired a single shot from his gun. Now, Nicole Oulson, who was with her husband, she testified that he had took out his phone during the previews to check on their 22-month-old daughter. The bullet that killed Chad nearly severed his wife's finger as she tried to get him to sit down. Another witness testified that after firing the fatal shot, Reeves had muttered, "Throw popcorn in my face." Still, Reeves had maintained that Oulson had apparently been ready to hit him. Quote, I was completely defenseless. Well, apparently not. You had a gun. I've never encountered somebody exhibiting that amount of uncontrolled anger and rage. Now, was the guy mad? Yeah, apparently there were reports of Oulson being very angry and dropping a lot of profanity. And even maybe looking like he was going to hit the guy. But then ended up throwing popcorn. And so how much of a danger was he in reality? Look, apparently that was enough for Reeves to claim that he had to stand his ground. The same defense that George Zimmerman, of course, had used against Trayvon Martin. Now, the jury unfortunately sided with Reeves, believing that Oulson was a mortal danger to him During closing arguments, defense attorney Richard Escobar had successfully argued that Oulson made Reeves reasonably believe his life was in danger by turning, yelling, and reaching towards him. He said Reeves decided to shoot based on his nearly 30 years in law enforcement and hours of training on the justifiable use of deadly force. Escobar said that Reeves didn't have to even wait until he was hit before defending himself. Reeves had, quote, "no knowledge, more experience, more study in that area than anyone in this courtroom. It's a dangerous world." Now, look, I have called out police training as, well, I mean, this is a great example of the effects of police training. When you're trained that everything is a deadly mortal threat, well, then you will treat everything as a deadly mortal threat. Even somebody who's, mad at you for you starting an argument with them about their cell phone, over a cell phone. Oh, well, I don't think you should have that cell phone. Hey, old man, go fuck yourself, right? I'm doing this, I'm doing that. No, I want you to put away your phone. Why? Because I command you. I have decreed, and I am the one with the gun. But you don't know it until I bite off more than I can chew, and then you throw popcorn at me. Well, that's okay. I'm going to return that with a bullet. And now you're dead. How do you like that? Throw coffee, or I'm sorry, not throw popcorn at me. Throw popcorn at me. Please, I dare you. I dare you. I'll kill you. And that's exactly what happened. And he got away with it. Well, of course. Of course. This is what we said was going to happen with laws like Stand Your Ground. This is what's going to happen. Now anybody can pull a gun and shoot someone else in any situation that involves any sort of argument. A traffic argument? Argument over something stupid? Hey, you took my place in line. Now I'm going to shoot you. You looked at your cell phone during the previews and I started an argument with you. Well, now I feel threatened because you argued back and now I could shoot you. Now I could murder you. And I can get away with it. That's what Stand Your Ground does. That's what happens when you have these types of laws in place. Now, in these places, you have people that are literally a hair trigger away from murdering you and getting away with it over ridiculous small things. And they are small things. No matter who is right in the argument, the correct answer is not to murder the other guy, even if they throw popcorn. Popcorn is not a deadly weapon, but a gun is. But a gun is. That's the situation we find ourselves in. If you're living in Florida, God, I don't know how you could stand living in Florida. I don't know how you can stand it. I don't know how you can survive in that place, knowing that anybody, it doesn't matter anyone, if you have a problem with anyone and you say something, they can murder you if you have an argument. Not at all. The whole place is just devolving into absolute insanity with these stupid, short-sighted, ridiculous bullshit laws.